You were part of the original Dennis the Menace.
It's like the 15 minutes of fame that Andy Warhol came up with. My hired at 4 and fired at 5 could be a 1-hour element or a year element, but it is typical of this town. You're only as good as your last job. And after the shoot, he was looking at my test pictures, the Polaroids, and he was admiring them, and he asked me if I shot fashion. And I, as a young 25-year-old photographer, I said, of course, I take fashion. And I didn't have a single photograph in my portfolio that said fashion. I came over to the location, I walked into the dressing room. We both enjoyed football. And we were watching, and the director knocks on the dressing room door. He takes a look, and he's introducing himself for the first time to Ricardo, and he sees me, and he about blanches. It's like, how can the little still photographer be in the star's dressing room? And so a production assistant came up to me and said, what are you doing in that dressing room? And I said, well, I'm Ricardo's son-in-law. And he goes, oh, that's how you got the job. And I just walked away.
It's so funny, right? What Ricardo said, who is Ricardo Montalbán? The whole 5 stages, right?
Oh, yes, it is a poignant statement. He just had a unique ability to make people laugh. He's the one person who I knew who never had an enemy. Learn to adapt, create, and the rewards will come.
Today we're joined by Gilbert Smith, an internationally recognized photographer, creative director, and live theater producer. Gil's career spans decades, capturing high-action automotive and sports images for global brands like Apple, Oakley, to leading one of Hollywood's most iconic performing arts spaces, the Montalbán Theater. As president and executive producer, Gil has revitalized the theater, investing millions into its transformation while creating opportunities for emerging talent to collaborate with celebrated stars. Gil, welcome to the Infant Show.
Thank you for taking the time to interview me, and pleasure.
Gil, your career has touched photography, advertising, and theater. When you think about your journey, what thread connects all of it for you?
Well, I think it's my vision and also looking for new frontiers. As a child, I was introduced to a space where producing television shows and motion pictures were my playground. And when I became a teenager, I looked at the arts and I was attracted to the arts. And then after having a professional career as a photographer in advertising, I was looking at entertainment as another frontier. So here I am today, 20 years into the theater.
Awesome. And then, Gil, you grew up in Hollywood, right? You were born there.
Just a few blocks from this theater on Homewood Avenue. It's now part of Netflix Park. My grandmother owned a 6-unit apartment building that was very popular construction in the 1930s and 40s in Hollywood. And I was born in Hollywood.
So you essentially work a couple of blocks from where you were born, and have you lived here most of your life, or did you move out and come back?
Oh, I've lived in a lot of different cities. Unlike a lot of people who are born in a small town and stay there. We started in Hollywood, moved to New York as a young teenager, and then back to Los Angeles. And then I was in Rochester, New York for school, and then back to Los Angeles for the start of my photographic career.
Awesome. And what did your parents do?
My mother was a singer and actress. In fact, she was a weather girl on the George Putnam News in the 1959-60 time frame in a whole different era of television. And my father was a cinematographer, and we lived right on Homewood Avenue, just a couple blocks away.
I've heard you say that you were, of course, a child actor. You were part of the original Dennis the Menace, and then Peter Loves Mary. I think this was the 1950s, right, Jill? And you said that you were hired at 4 and fired at 5.
Oh, that's. I'm glad that was one of my lines. because we are just, it's like the 15 minutes of fame that Andy Warhol came up with. My hired at 4, it fired at 5 could be a 1 hour element or a year element, but it is typical of this town. You're only as good as your last job.
What was childhood like? Were you always surrounded by movies, theater, acting, or was it, like anybody else?
Oh, no, no. I was in and out of schools on various commercials, television shows, and most of my grade school was tied between the camera lots and a public school. So it created kind of a barrier between students that were there full time, 100%, that became jealous of what I did, and I just looked past it and kept on with my career. I'm 71 now, so I don't think it hurt me.
And what is your memory of being a child artist? What is your memory of Dennis the Menace?
Oh, I learned practical jokes. The prop department liked to do things like put me into a chair in a closet and tie me up in it. And the chair was red paint so the cinematographer could see the chair in the dark closet, and it would be wet paint. So when I got up from the chair stuck to me, and they thought that was really funny. So Jay North and I, as a result of that practical joke, during lunchtime, we had a lot of animals on the set, and we let them out of their cages, and they were running around to the chagrin of the crew. So it went back and forth.
You were naughty enough to take your revenge right away from them or with them.
Well, when you are a key member of a cast, it's really hard to get rid of you. I figured that one out early on. So, but I was still, I tried to do my best in order to earn that money that I was making as a child.
At 4, you felt that this is where I belong. Did you really feel at peace and in place, or did you feel out of place?
Oh, it was very natural for me. My first memories, I remember I was on a set, and I was talking to my sister recently, and she said, "Oh, she was on that shoot too." It was a commercial for Southern California Gas Company about saving money by having baths with other family members. And so I'm in a bathtub in the middle of a soundstage with a strange boy and lights around, and I just, okay, next, and then we go on to the next set. So it's I learned to take direction at an early age.
Awesome, Gil. And then, Gil, over the span of your career, you've both been behind the camera, behind the scenes, and in front of the camera as well early on. What comes naturally to you today?
It's interesting. My sweetheart, Margaret Martin, she's a PhD and has a couple books that she's working on and wanted a new headshot. So we set it up on my stage here late at night, and I hadn't taken a formal portrait of anybody in several years, and it was like, as they say, once you ride a bicycle, you never forget. So we made some beautiful photographs together, and I enjoy it. I mean, photography is one of the greatest ways to relax. Street photography. I've replaced a lot of the gear that I had as a Canon Explorer of Light, which was a program that started in 1991. That I was one of the, let's say, inaugural members of that group that featured photographers in various fields. And now I'm using the iPhone. It's a remarkable instrument, and it's just I love making imagery all the time.
We'll talk about that journey after we delve a little bit more detail into your origin story. How was middle school like? Did you continue your journey, through television and acting, and the movies? How was middle school like?
I was in sort of a motivational change because an English teacher in junior high school, Wilbur Hanson, had me stay after class, and he knew I wasn't reading Macbeth. And he had questioned a few of the teachers who had become familiar with me, and he knew I was a good artist. And he suggested that I take a summer school course in photography, and I did. And the minute that I sat down in that class, the teacher, Warren King, had a collection of professional photographers' works that he showed to his new students. And I immediately knew that this was something that I wanted to pursue and did for many years thereafter.
Awesome. And what was your first camera?
Oh, it was an Instamatic 104 Kodak with a cassette load-in, plastic lens that was really horrible. Pretty good for silhouettes, and that's about it. So
I see. And then you were at high school and you continued to pursue photography. At that point, what kind of work were you interested in then?
we had assignments that were weekly and also competitions. The high school class had a fairly good reputation for turning out people who were good photographic artists prior to my arrival. And I had a portfolio that was submitted to Art Center College in my 10th year, and it was a competition for seniors. And at the behest of my high school teacher, he asked that I put the portfolio in just to see how well I would do, and I ended up winning the competition. Unfortunately, the man who was in charge of admissions at Art Center was very abused by the fact that I was not a senior and revoked the scholarship the year that I graduated, so that I ended up in Rochester, New York.
So when it was time to pick a college, you picked Rochester Institute of Technology. What made you end up there, and what was your major?
Oh, it was the Professional Photographers Association had a scholarship program, along with Eastman Kodak also had a scholarship program, and the Bank of America. I applied for all of those and received scholarships to go there. And so I shipped myself into Rochester, New York for a year, and I returned a year later in my Volkswagen Squareback that I had acquired as a mode of transportation to see the countryside in the Northeast, and then I went into the studios after that.
Yeah. And what was your first job out of college?
The classes that they were offering were, especially for the underclassmen, were far below my experience. And the administration was interested in having me stay for 4 years and not to move me ahead. And I was pretty impatient. So I basically didn't spend a lot of time in college. I went to New York City quite a bit to get involved with the art scene there. And in fact, I took my college class to New York right after the Thanksgiving weekend that year. And we visited different studios, museums, and even the fifth floor walk-up of the Black Book, which was the first, let's say, directory for major photographers that was the Bible for artists in the latter part of the 20th century. And it was its first year of publication. And we got a very good, insightful fill in our cups as to what the professional ranks offered. And I was pretty happy with the trip.
And then, right after that, you started your own studio, right? As you dove in, or did you do some other work?
Oh, I went back to Los Angeles and I interviewed with several studios and was looking for an assistant's or studio manager's job. And I ended up at James B. Wood Photography. He was considered to be the hot new talent in Hollywood for advertising. And it was a great 2 years that I spent with him. And then I was hired away from his studio to join with Reed Miles. It was television and still photography, and he was very well known for his album cover work and high-end advertising. So that was the curriculum, was actually in the studios. And then I started my studio after that.
I see. So you worked for about 4 years or so then? How did
Uh-huh.
it,
Yes.
and then you started your studio. What did that experience of 4 years teach you?
It was challenging, and it was everything that I expected the profession to be. And Reed actually, I was fired. I was supposed to stay there for a year, and after about 9 months, we were working on a Buick campaign, and I came in on Monday morning, and he walked into the office, and while I was typing, and he said, "Well, we won't need your services anymore, and you've got 2 weeks." And he walked out, and I walked in, and I said, "Well, you don't have 2 weeks. You've got 2 minutes. Anything else to say?" And I was off, and so that was the start of a studio career. So.
Why did he do that? What ticked him off?
Oh, it was the executive producer, Ken, had quit the organization a week before, and there was a lot of tumult. I became his object of anger, so he wanted me aside, and it all worked out really well because, as he told me later, being fired is probably the best thing that ever happens to you.
Awesome. Then, how was the initial start to your own studio? What was it like?
I had a portfolio, and I knew where I wanted to get the work. And I didn't have a studio to begin with, and nor did we have rental studios available in that era. And we're talking the mid 70s. So I had a one-liner about when an art director would ask me where my studio was, I would refer to Rodeo Drive as being the place for my studio. And if I saw him smile or her smile, I knew that at least I had a conversation because I knew I was being sarcastic. I joined a studio on Cahuenga Boulevard that had the likes of Annie Leibovitz using it, and stayed there for about a year. And similar to how a hairdresser rents a chair and comes in and is a hairstylist, that's sort of how we were working on the Cahuenga studio. And then I found a situation where I couldn't believe it. We had 10,000 square feet at 11 cents a square foot down in Koreatown, and I established my studio there for about 25 years.
And how long did it take you to be that established?
Oh, that was about 3 years after I was out on my own. And then it was one of those situations where we had to build it out in order to make it a functional studio. It was just a giant warehouse for taxi cabs that had been abandoned, and in a neighborhood that was subpar, but had a lot of promise.
Understood. Now, obviously, the artistic side or the photographic side came naturally to you. Did the business side come naturally to you as well?
I think the business side, I tell people that you can make mistakes, and you have to learn from them, though. You have to be, or I've been sensitive to the changes in the industry because there have been different eras. When I first started, art directors, creative directors would hire the talent, whether it was illustrators or artists or production companies directly. But then the distrust amongst the administrations of ad agencies became peaked. And then they brought in art buyers, and art buyers were the staff to hire the various studios, and then it became triple bid. And then, it was. I then moved myself to Europe, where we didn't have that sort of vendor process and trying to create the low bid, they really appreciated my work and wanted me as the California surfer boy to make pictures of European cars.
Was that the biggest success you had then in the early part of your career?
It was really amazing because I was fairly well known in the Pacific Coast with the Japanese and Asian manufacturers, doing work for Kawasaki, Yamaha, and Honda, and Nissan. And so I had varied success with Detroit, especially with my Nissan campaigns. It put me on the radar screen with Jeep, but the season that I was emerging into in 1990, there was a big trend that had started the year previous to bring European photographers in to photograph the new cars from Detroit, and it was the European look. So I was never going to be able to satisfy that criteria. So I decided to invent my own criteria by going to Europe, and it worked magic. I was going back and forth between Los Angeles and Europe for about 12 years.
And how did you meet Anita?
It was a great accident in that I was working on a project with an art director from Ogilvy and Mather, which is an ad agency that's international and still around today. And I was doing the work as a still life photographer for their new products. It was a hair care line called Ionique, and their fashion photographer had disappeared, and there was a shoot that was imminent at a clothing designer's studio as an endorsement PR shoot, and the designer was Rudy Gernrich. And so I was called to substitute for this fashion photographer, and pulled my equipment together and went over to Rudy's studio, and he had hired two models to wear his new stretch garments as muses as I was taking photographs around with the executives and with Rudy in a stage situation about his editing and approving my photography. And after the shoot, he was looking at my test pictures, the Polaroids, and he was admiring them. And he asked me if I shot fashion. And as a young 25-year-old photographer, I said, of course, I take fashion. And I didn't have a single photograph in my portfolio that said fashion. So when he said he'd like to see my portfolio, I ran around the corner and I got Anita to come out and collaborate with me and to shoot some photographs with Rudy's fashion garments. And I put together a shoot that was pretty much a knockout, using flash on camera in outdoor urban areas with his stretch garments. And we shot a very long day. And Anita and I worked on the portfolio together after that, and we started dating, and we married and had 38 wonderful years. She was absolutely the most beautiful and genuine woman. I miss her a lot. I lost her in November 5th of 2021. And she had battled a very rare form of cancer called PPC, and she was a warrior and a beauty.
We're very sorry for your loss, but you have fond memories, and the inspiration and the love that you had, right, is timeless in many ways.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, our daughter, who is in Albuquerque, New Mexico, gave birth to a new young girl, and she named her daughter Anita, so in honor of her mother. So the life does continue and it moves on, and I'm reworking and adapting my life in a positive fashion.
Absolutely. How was your first meeting with Ricardo Montalban?
Oh, it was fun. Um, he's he is just a marvelous inspiration to many, and his wit and his demeanor were unique, and just he ingratiates and warms the room with everybody around. He and if he What I liked about Ricardo is that if you did something that was against what he felt was right, he wouldn't embarrass me. He would take me aside and teach me. And he was just really a marvelous man.
He coached you, or that was his style, right? He used to coach people.
Oh, yes. We 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 had a great relationship as father-in-law. He said, "No, don't call me father-in-law. Just I'm your dad." We had a couple of funny instances because he was the spokesman for Chrysler Corporation for 16 years, and he had a number of phrases that became iconic to American culture, like the Corinthian leather.
Yes.
And I was shooting for Chrysler, and the executives at Chrysler or the advertising agencies didn't know my relationship with Ricardo. So what happened on one Sunday is that the automobile, it was a Chrysler New Yorker that he was slated to be the spokesman and the sales pitchman for. I needed for my photography because I was on an assignment to announce these new automobiles, and there was only one vehicle available, and it was on his location, and I had to go over to find out when they were going to release the car. And I came over to the location. I walked into the dressing room, and it was a Sunday morning, and we both enjoyed football, and we were watching. And the director knocks on the dressing room door, the motorhome, and he takes a look, and he's introducing himself for the first time to Ricardo, and he sees me. And he about blanches. It's like, how can the little still photographer be in the star's dressing room? And so I I actually was prepping Ricardo on the fact that this man was a new director and to be easy on him. And I left the location, and a production assistant came up to me and said, "What are you doing in that dressing room?" And I said, "Well, I'm Ricardo's son-in-law." And he goes, "Oh, that's how you got the job." And I just walked away.
Well, that happened in high school or in, when you were a kid in school as well, right? I'm sure you went through that. So you're used to that, but perhaps people don't realize, your talent and your work. Ricardo was this larger than life figure, right? So much work that he has done, is, the greatest con, right? And so many, different things. Was he a larger than life figure in person as well? How was he in person?
He didn't have to do anything different. He could just enter a room, and people everybody had such great respect for him. And it was fun when we did go to events where he was being honored. And he was very masterful at the microphone as an MC. He could take command of the room and embrace everybody. And he brought forward a humanity and empathy for the work that was being done on behalf of others. And he always gave himself freely to those kinds of efforts.
Absolutely. I mean, his voice, right? When he said the one thing you always wanted in a luxury car, everything, right? It's such and so many different things that he said, right? That are kind of enshrined in memory of a lot of people. He was a remarkable, person. Did he talk often of, that he was disturbed by the depictment of Hispanic and Mexican stars? Did he talk about that often?
Oh, well, he was very active. He started an organization called Nosotros,
Yep.
which in Spanish means us.
Yep.
And in spite of being threatened with death and harm, he did an inaugural opening for the organization at the Hollywood Bowl and had the likes of Frank Sinatra
Yep.
on to inaugurate what he believed to be an awakening for Hollywood to start casting different ethnicities to the right roles and to open the cultural eyes of Hollywood, which were been very closed in the 1950s. And he had been working all along about uh, opening the human beings' eyes to the fact that we all have strong cultural grounding, but to just create stereotypes that are negative, and that was his biggest problem, is that like today, that we have an administration in Washington, D.C. that started 8 years ago that said we're going to build a wall and have Mexico pay for it because we have drug dealers and rapists coming from the southern border, which wasn't true. That sort of mentality was pervasive in the 1950s. And he was invited to go on stage and Lena Horne, and he starred in a Broadway show called Jamaica. And he played an ethnic Caribbean sailor or islander, and she was the femme fatale, and they kiss on stage. And it was a Jim Crow era. And he kept the articles of the negative criticism of him kissing Lena Horne on stage. Oh my God. So he very quietly just kept that pitch to where we're going to, and the establishment of this theater was in the same vein as he applied to his kissing Lena Horne on stage. He wanted to continue to have the industry embrace cultural differences and to be able to have an open forum for our creative energies. And this is what I'm doing today with the theater, to extend that sort of philosophy.
Absolutely. We'll talk about the theater in a lot more detail. It's so funny, right? What Ricardo said. Who is Ricardo Montalban? The whole five stages, right?
Oh, yes.
And then it ends at who's Ricardo Montalban. That's poignant,
Oh,
right?
yes. That quote, I actually had it. I have these bottles in my original design. I had the quote on the bottle, the five stages of an actor, and it is a poignant statement. And his uh, he just had a unique ability to make people laugh, and he didn't have. He's the one person who I knew who never had an enemy. He
Yeah.
had people who disagreed with his positions, but they couldn't argue the fact that they really loved him. And he was endearing. My wife Anita, my late wife, I used to joke that she had her mother's look and her father's disposition, and not the other way around. So yeah, I was very fortunate too, because meeting Anita, it changed my life because and a lot of the character that she embodied was her father. And so even before I met him, I was embraced by his spirit with his daughter.
And when you first met him, Nosotros was already in place, or was it being established at the point?
Oh, yes, it was established in the 60s. And I it's a nonprofit, and it is headed up right now by Joel Gonzalez, who I have a very good relationship with. He's working aside from being a president of the trade association, and he's an executive producer and recently finished a very big hit called The Long Game with Dennis Quaid, and it's a story about five Latino kids in Texas who were not allowed to go into the country clubs and play golf, and they created their own golf course and then competed for the state championship and won on the same golf course that they were refused to attend or play on the premises because of their color. So I'm very honored to be working with him and others to create the narratives and stories that are positive and reinforcing of what Ricardo started.
That's a powerful story, Gil. Now, Gil, let's talk a little bit about the Montalbán Foundation and the theater. You've been involved with it for a long time. You became principal in 1986, the chair in 2006, and then the president in 2017. Tell us a little bit about the work the foundation does and the theater itself.
The foundation is the owner of the theater itself, and the premise or their mission is to create a work environment and job creation with the various projects that we're able to bring into the theater to create key positions for, let's say, for individuals who might not have that opportunity otherwise. And we're not, we're not a house where established work that's coming from Broadway necessarily comes in here because it's a smaller theater. And so we train a lot of people, and I'm very pleased with the fact that now that I've been here 20 years, we have people who have been here for a number of years and have moved on to the Disney, to the Alex, to the Pasadena Playhouse, and elsewhere to get or have jobs in live theater.
Awesome. And you guys, the theater is based at a really iconic location, 1615 Vine, right? Started during the silver screen gold rush in the 1920s, CBS Radio Playhouse, Hartford, the Doolittle, which the Nosotros Foundation and Montalbán's Foundation bought over from UCLA, right? What kind of facilities do you have? I've heard that you have a outdoor space and an indoor, about 1,000 people in the indoor space. Tell us a little bit more about the theater itself.
The succession, yes, it went through its first building phase from 1925 to 1927. It opened in January of 27 as the Wilkes Brothers Vine Street Theater. And the grandnephews of John Wilkes Booth, the man who assassinated Abraham Lincoln, were the general contractors or founders of this theater. They had moved out from the East Coast because they didn't have much of a social scene, having a grand uncle who had been an assassin, and they came out here to try to revive their lives and quickly got into trouble in the early 30s after the completion of the theater. And I was reading in an LA Times article of 1932 that one of the brothers was indicted for laundering $12.5 million. And then the theater was sold to Howard Hughes, who had become very involved in American cinema and was building a theater chain. And it was a vertical business model. Everybody's very proud of having vertical business models these days. Well, he pioneered it back in the 1930s. And then he sold the theater to CBS. When I came on board, and I'm skipping a generation or two, the theater was in complete, let's say, disarray. It had been neglected for a number of years. UCLA had it, but sub-rented it to a couple of different theater companies, but nobody was really passionate about bringing it together as a working theater 365. And that's what I've been working on for the past 20.
Yep, there was a plan to turn it into a nightclub at one point.
Yes, unfortunately, when I first came here, one of the board members was attempting to move, and their nightclubs were very popular in Hollywood at the time, and would have possibly made him personally a lot of money, but it was not in keeping with the mission that Ricardo had envisioned, and I derailed that fairly quickly.
That would have been tragic for that iconic place for sure. Um, and what has been the journey since you took over? It's been 7, 8 years now, right, or longer.
I mean,
Yeah,
I'm going on 20 years. I mean, I came here in early 2006,
I see.
and I became chairman of the board in, I think, '08, thereabouts. But I took charge pretty much right away, because I walked in for the first time, and I walked into the main auditorium, and there was one woman with two children at the front row below the stage. And when I opened the door, she got up from the chair and said, "Who's that?" And I said, "Well, it's Gil Smith." "Well, close that door." And I closed it behind me, and I went back to the office and the receptionist, and I asked her, I said, "What is going on in there?" And she said, "Well, there's an acting class." I said, "With two children and a teacher, does this go on regularly?" "Oh, yes, every Thursday." I said, "Well, there are 1,000 seats in that theater. I don't think that's quite the correct use of the room." So from that point forward, I started plotting to activate this place. So yeah, it's taken some time because we didn't have the finances to move forward with activations, and we were very fortunate. Within a couple of years, Nike came in and became a theater partner with us, and we built a lot of things together during that 4-year period.
Tell us a little bit more about the kind of things that you've built.
Well, the roof court being one, that was a project that went through building and safety, and we added 6,000 square feet to the roof or to the theater itself. We're still working on fundraising for elevator service to it because it's 88 stairs from the ground to it. And we want to have everybody have access to it, and that's one of the things that is one of my goals. I've rebuilt the stage, new lights, new sound, new communications devices, put in place the control area for the live stage presentations in the rear orchestra area, and rebuilt almost everything in this place.
And what kind of programs does the Montalban carry right now? What is on today or this week?
Well, we have a lot of, let's say, one-night engagements. We had the new documentary premiere here in Los Angeles for John Candy's as a documentary. Ryan Reynolds produced it, and Tom Hanks' son, Colin Hanks, directed a documentary about the comedian and his life. It was a fundraiser for St. Jude's Hospital. We have upcoming, we have Cameron Crowe coming in for a 2-night engagement about his new book called Uncool, and that's going to be an exciting evening. We just finished a John Waters evening because it's the 35th anniversary of Crybaby. So he and a number of his actors were on stage and discussed their careers. As far as extended shows, we have on tap coming forward a show from New York called 20-Sided Tavern, which is based on Dungeons and Dragons. In January, we have Paul Chowdhury, who is an English Indian comedian who is going to be here January 6th. Then after that, we have Something Sings, which is a parody I'm sorry, Stranger Sings, which is a parody of Stranger Things, which is a licensed parody of that show. We have a new Netflix is a joke in May. And this is just some of the activities. I mean, you can go to our website at www.themontalban.com and you'll see our rooftop activities, our main floor activities, and it is a constant flow, and it feels very good to be working ahead again because we got set behind with the pandemic.
Yep.
In 2020, March 13th was a marking day, just like 9/11. I had to give back to the potential producers and promoters of shows that we had deposits from, over $300,000 in deposits, and because it was a force majeure situation, and these were non-refundable deposits, and and then we, for almost 2 years, are unable to reopen based on the fact that we were an unessential or non-essential business. And I would be sitting inside this theater and look across the way at the grocery store that had people walking in and walking out of it on an ongoing basis. It was a very frustrating time.
But you guys survived all of
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah. We did survive, and that is sort of we don't have the same audience, we don't have the same kind of community that we had prior to the pandemic, and trying to figure out what and who we are as a community is still evolving because of what took place worldwide.
Understood. And what is your 10-year outlook?
As long as we survive the next 3.5, the 10 years look great. I mean, I really believe that technology, where LED lighting, the efficiencies. I'm trying to right now negotiate to have a fuel cell electrical generator parked behind my theater on a temporary basis to supply the technical needs for the large LED panels that are being put on stage in lieu of the classic painted scenery. And these sorts of technical challenges, and as long as I can continue the conversation, I've always been successful to be a poster child for these various industries. That's how I was able to get our sound system. It was a new sound company that was established in the Republic of Czechoslovakia, and it's called KV2 Audio. And they donated $600,000 worth of speakers, and we spent $200,000 in installation to have let's say, a robust and up-to-date sound system in the theater permanently. And it was a 3-year contract, and because of our strong relationship that started out well, we continue to have a great relationship today, and we have a demonstration date on December 11th with some of their executives and some possible clients that they have in the near future.
Awesome. Let's delve a little bit deeper into technology. Now, you've seen so much happen, because of technology in your photography career, right? With, digital and film going away. Let's talk a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about, the technology in theater and the major trends there. How was it going from, film to digital? Tell us about that journey, and then what happened after that in the 2010s, where a lot happened in the photography space itself, right?
I started in an era where we were shooting almost exclusively for, let's say, the automotive industry, 8x10 sheet film. And I started pushing the 35 millimeter look, which had a lot more versatility inherent in the system, to create imagery that I called super realism, where high action shots, dirt, the advertisers were trying to make things super clean and almost antiseptic in their look, and I railed against it and was successful in creating imagery that was attractive to the consumer by breaking those rules. The technology from going from film to digital was long. I saw some of the early digital tests that Kodak, which is, if your audience isn't familiar, was the yellow god of film in Hollywood and anywhere in the world before digital technology came into being in our camera systems. With the digital technology, uh, it opened up the use of computers, digital backs. We had to adapt to this new age and learn a whole new medium. And to me, I had a great advantage because I had a career in the film era. And regardless of what digital technology there is, the look and feel of what our photographs represent in different eras of the 20th century are all marked with the different types of film looks that were available to the amateur or the professional during those eras. And we're doing a lot of the same techniques today that emulate those various decades with digital technology. So to me, it's been exciting because I'm learning, and I've always tell people, don't ever stop that sort of process. Awaken yourself because you might discover something that really is intriguing and passionate for your future by looking at all the different changes that are taking place.
So what you're essentially saying is that using digital, we are going back and recreating those decades and those eras.
Oh yeah, that's in using it as a tool. Much in this, I'll hearken on a conversation in Thai, Ricardo Montalban, to this digital technology immersion. I was doing early tests of CGI for Ford, and I was talking about this with Ricardo, and the work that I was doing was like a Coca-Cola Pepsi taste test, where the clients came to us and asked us to shoot photographs and then also develop the computer diagram or mapping that would take in order to simulate the same scenes that we were shooting in photographs and to be able to match or improve upon the photograph with that process. And I was talking to Ricardo about this, and I said, and eventually, Dad, if you shoot a motion picture, if they have a pickup scene and you're not available, they'll be able to create it. And then he looked at me and he said, "You know what I do for a living. I'm an actor, and you're saying that I'm going to get replaced by a computer?" And I said, "That's, certainly their intent." And he looked at me and he said, "This is very depressing." So, from his standpoint, he was not very excited to because he loved working and interacting with different actors on sets, and that was his heart and soul. And then in many respects, I see now with the generation that is coming through, that is making websites in 5 minutes and creating ads with just a few keywords, takes that textural process, that exchange that we had as artists in the early, in the 20th century, 21st century, and I still try to create that with live theater, and I have that home here. Live theater is not going to be replaced with AI.
That conversation that you had with Ricardo, tens of thousands of people have that today, right?
Oh, yeah. From my perspective, in preserving his likeness as an intellectual property and his name, I'm always constantly aware of the fact that these new Wrath of Khan or other let's say, iconic pieces of character that he became famous for, if utilized, that the heirs and the family are protected with the use.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Gilbert. Gil, let's talk a little bit more about and get your take on AI. You've given us early directions already. What are your thoughts on it? What is the potential? And obviously, if you can summarize at a high level, what do you see to be the main issues?
I I enjoy AI. It it tends, though, in my world, I'm looking at a lot of different artists' renderings, and they start to look and feel plastic in as much as that there's a repetitious sort of look into the perfect lighting that is created within the context of an AI platform. And it's to me, it's really confining. Everybody talks about it being expansive, and I look sometimes as it being just a little shotgun gun going down a hole, and not as I don't think audiences are going to be as receptive to that technology on a full immersive basis by itself. I'm working on a couple projects right now that integrate AI, but only as a part of our live shows with live musicians or live singers or live actors to augment or to create an environment that is a complete escapism from everyday life within the context of our theater.
How would that work? Tell us a little bit more. I'm intrigued.
Well, I'm talking to various companies that are in the projection field, Sony, Barco, and then you have the AI companies. There's a few who are interested in the creativity of some of the individuals that I associate with, including my work. And they're giving us license to create various scenes and scenarios that we can present on stage. And I have a couple projects under development right now that are being prepared to be put in front of audiences. So I will let you know if we have, or the world will know whether or not we have something that is a mixed media solution with AI. But and from my standpoint, it's a challenge.
Yep, I've seen you guys seem to be experimenting or thinking about this for a while. I saw a video of a very young Ricardo talking about the theater seats can be used as a flotation device. I thought that was funny. So you guys have been playing with that kind of creativity for a while, I would say. Tell us
Oh
more
yeah.
about that.
Oh well, that's yeah. That the aim that I mean that particular piece, we actually recorded that. We were doing a parody, Disney parody on Zorro, and the show was called Zorro in Hell, and it was with a group that I compared to the Marx Brothers of the 1930s, and they were called Culture Clash. And the show was a remarkable comedy. And the trio was asking me if Ricardo would do the pre-show announcement. And I said to them, hey, give me a script and I'll get Ricardo to do it. And so during rehearsals, this kept on going back and forth for about a week and a half. And I really believe that the group didn't believe that I could get it done. So they finally came down with a script, and I went up to the house and I had you talk about technology. I had a Samsung Snowball microphone and a Apple laptop with GarageBand on it. And I was proficient in able to record with this. And it really was astounding to me but I didn't know how to break it down to take the recording and to have it mixed afterwards. Thank God that took place because Ricardo was not in great physical shape, but being the pro that he was, he I got him out of bed. We put the snowball on a table in his bedroom. He got in a chair and he marked 8 inches from the microphone, and we laid down these lines about a pre-show announcement, and I was able to come back an hour later with it recorded, and Richard Montoya, who was the leader of Culture Clash, he listened to it and he just looked at me and he was in just shock and pleasantly because we had something and we still play it today. I mean, the only thing that has aged about it is that he made a reference to blackberries. And I think blackberries eventually might come back because texting is really a lot of fun still.
I think that's enough reason for one to go to the Montalban to hear that voice. I doubt they'll be able to hear it anywhere else. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Again, let's delve a little bit deeper into technology and theater, the impact of technology on theater. You've talked about lighting. Tell us a little bit more on the major trends there and what do you see to be the future there?
I can tell you that thank God that the LED designs on lights are becoming really innovative. Uh, Strip lights that have heads that move in them, moving lights, and being able to control the spectrum. You can make bulbs go in any color direction you want without gelling physically. And that is it's more efficient to be able to work in this environment now. And we right now we have probably, let's say, 84 instruments in the air that are various types of LED, and we have a few tungsten classic spots still on stage for basic lighting needs. But for the most part, I just think it's just a tremendous amount of fun to be able to have a color palette to any stretch of the imagination available, to light with, and to do simple things to create a mood is what we're aiming towards all the time, and to have that just at your fingertips and experiment with it on the fly is remarkable.
Understood. That is really powerful and very interesting. Um, what would you say to somebody who has never experienced this? What would be your pitch to them?
I will use a reference to older individuals who come into my theater. I reference the Disneyland e-ticket. And you have to be my age to remember that we used to have coupons when we went to Disneyland, and there were the A rides, the B rides, the C rides, and the D rides, and the E rides. The E rides were the ones that were the expended tickets in any of the uh, groups, and we always had A and B and C tickets left over. Um, and I'm always aiming for those E tickets. My example is the first time we had in Southern California the bobsled ride called the Matterhorn. And the minute we got off that ride, we wanted to get back in line, because it was so much fun. And that's what I aim to have in this theater, is to have that period of time that we people walk in through our doors, and after they leave, they feel rewarded for having made the trip here.
Thank you for making that happen and creating that experience for people. Is that the legacy you want to leave?
Oh, absolutely. Oh yeah. I want everybody to say the best place to be entertained or to escape or to have a great laugh, come to the Montalban.
Awesome. It's been a fascinating conversation with you. I've really enjoyed speaking with you, all the stories of Ricardo, your life and your journey. It's been really powerful. I have a few fun questions for you, for the audience to get to know you better as a person. What else would you like to share with our audience?
I would say that always learn to adapt create, 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 and the rewards will come.
Gilbert, thank you very much for being on the Inference Show. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Folks, today we were joined by Gilbert Smith, an internationally recognized photographer, creative director. He is currently leading the Montalbán Theater, Hollywood's iconic performing arts space. Gil, thank you so much for being on the Inference Show.
And truly my pleasure to be here with you. Thank you.